AI has been shifting so fast and changing so fast, and it seems like every time a new model comes out, there's like hundreds of new startups go out of business in Silicon Valley. And I think statistically, AI processing capability doubles every 4 months. That was the information as of about 4 months ago, so it could be even higher. So we figured we'd do an update on some of our forecasts that we did last year, probably about a year ago now. Last year about where we saw things heading, how we can prepare for those things. So we split that into three chunks, three time periods. So 1 to 2 years, 2 to 5 years, and 5+ years. So 5+, this is completely blue sky, just complete speculation. Even 2 to 5 is mostly speculative. The way things are moving, it's hard to predict anything past next year. So 1 to 2 years is probably the most reliable content here. Everything else, obviously take it with a grain of salt, especially the 5+. I'm actually curious to hear for those who will be watching this later, what you think about what's going to happen in about 5 years if we're still going to be here with the user groups and website development conversations. So, anyways, what I'll do is I'll highlight just some of the important things that I think worth mentioning that are different compared to the previous forecast, previous um, uh, sessions that we did on AI. So one of the things that is now becoming a reality is the AI referrals is now being considered seriously and is becoming a measurable acquisition channel. My Siri's lighting up, trying to listen to me. So it is now a formal acquisition channel. So there's a lot to talk about there. So I'm not going to get into the details, but it's important to consider. So this is now another acquisition channel similar to social, similar to digital, right? So it's related to digital, but it's just treated on the same shelf, right there, right along with the rest of the channels. Uh, what we forecasted, now we're seeing this being the reality, is that expert content is taking priority. And I'm sure Alison will take us to school on that topic. But anything that has to do with structuring content for AI has become a priority for organizations. Probably in the last half a year, I would say it went up to the top of the list based on at least our client base, our market research, um, the clients that we work with directly, people that we talk with, and other offline conversations. Getting content ready, uh, content itself ready for AI, but then also exposing it in the right way for AI has become a massive priority for companies. And that was accelerated by just the squeeze of the zero click. So that's, the rest of the predictions in the next about 1 to 2 years have remained the same. So one thing that might be worth mentioning also is that SEO is still a priority. We had that question asked recently. If geo is the new SEO, ChatGPT and a lot of actually services still use Google's indexes. So SEO is still the foundation for AI optimization, but there's a lot more to that now for AI specifically. So if we look at 2 to 5 year horizon, right? This is where we're now starting to look at proper automation. A lot of automation conversations happening now, especially around digital operations, actually across all business units. We most frequently interact with marketing and IT in our space, but we also see the same conversations happening in finance, in procurement, in fulfillment with those who deal with products. So it's just across all departments. It's becoming a massive topic, organizational AI adoption optimization. So it is relatively early on. The digital natives have been on top of this. We've have the company structured on top of automation. So we've been at it for some time, but it's now seems to be catching up to at least the Sitecore account base, right? So that's probably what we can speak for here, based on our experience. Other organizations have been working on it for quite some time. There was a last year I went to an AI conference in Las Vegas with Martin and Boris, and there was a session where they were talking about a project that IBM did. They were aiming to cut $2 billion in optimizations through AI. After about a year, they ended up cutting 3.5 billion. So it's just that, and that's a lot of cheeseburgers. So case studies like that are all over the place. So this is becoming front and center. And the flavor that these types of optimizations can take or can be different. For some organizations, it's just a straight pragmatic cost reduction, restructuring. For others, it's upskilling, freeing up people and then upskilling them. For others, it's freeing up people to do the things that they couldn't do before, or do more of the things that are more important than the busy work. So every organization takes a different outlook on this, but we see that the automation will really hit probably in about a couple of years or so. And then let's see, if we look at the digital landscape, conversational experience is becoming front and center. So that was probably about half a year to a year ago. That was experimental in terms of digital experience. Companies were cautious about it. At least, again, we're speaking from our experience, our client base. Companies were cautious about it. They wanted to see what everyone else would do, kind of thing. They were experimenting, internal projects happening for internal tooling, but nothing for digital. We're seeing this interest really picking up now. Now it seems like we've gotten over that first experimental phase, and now companies are seeing the value, perhaps from internal tooling, enablement, perhaps the rollout of some of the enterprise tooling. I know some of our organizations, actually most of our organizations, are adopting Cloud Enterprise internally for experimentation, kind of quick skill acceleration. And that seems to be developing a lot of interest, a lot of curiosity, a lot of trust. So now that's propagated into IT, into marketing, and the conversational interface is becoming something that companies are starting to seriously look at. It's not fully replacing search yet, but it's kind of what we're seeing, kind of similar to what Google was doing, where there's a combination of search and a conversational interface. So that's 2 to 5 years, right? So 1 to 2, we're looking at AI optimization across the board, automation, probably on the cuff of year 2. That's probably where we're forecasting where we're going to see a lot of operational optimizations. And it's not that it will take, I think this is an important point. It's not that it will take a year or two to automate operations. Well, we found actually through our adoption program that we run for multiple clients, it's not the creation of the automation that takes time. It's the adoption that takes time. It's the rollout. It's the pilots. It's the follow-ups. It's that entire change management cycle, especially if you're working with a global organization. So it might take half a year just to roll something out. So it's after it's built internally, right? So we're talking about hundreds and thousands of users, right? So massive scale. So that's where the 2-year timeline is coming from. Although we're seeing some of those optimizations happening now, traction starting to pick up. It just takes a while to roll those things out, and it's mostly people, processes, face your favorite delay or drag within large organizations. Bureaucracy, you name it, compliance. It's nothing's that's been blocking. What's interesting, nothing that's been blocking so far. It's just takes a while to get through in large organizations. Okay, so and then 5 plus. So here's what we are thinking in terms of just totally blue sky type speculation. So all the experiences are finally becoming and getting put together in real time, right? In digital, we're probably it's going to be a path towards that most likely, right? We're now starting to see content generation for personalization with the help of AI. So some micro personalization with the help of AI. But this is all done offline, still goes through human in the loops, it still goes through workflows. So in several years, this will mature and this will get to the point where companies will start trusting AI. We'll have the right guardrails in place and the evals set up in the way where it's going to be more reliable and trustworthy um, across different organizations. So we'll see a lot more automation in that sense, and that will drive real-time content generation with that hyper personalization component, page composition. In fact, we've built a CMS that builds on our side in 2 weeks, by the way, in 2 weeks with WYSIWYG editing, with versioning support, language support, I think, and um, uh, streamlined content authoring workflow. So it's a manufacturing company that gets a spec, let's say from the factory, about a new product. Instead of uploading or typing out the information from PDF into the product model in the CMS and then augmenting that with marketing information. You just drag that into the CMS interface, let's call it, and the page gets created automatically given the library of components that we have and also augmented with all the marketing content based on SEO best practices, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right? Writing style guide, all of that, branding guidelines. So 2 weeks. Um, that's remarkable, right? So this was granted a proof of concept. It was not a platform ready for prime time. That was a proof of concept. It's evolving to become actually a product. However, there's just you can see if we're here now, but we're working with an organization that's just way ahead of kind of an average type of Sitecore customer, I would say there, right? So we're working with a digital native type kind of company that's just trying to leap forward, right? But this type of experience will likely propagate, in several years across the Sitecore ecosystem as well. Well, let's see. Well, uh, oh, here's an important one. In if I think with AI, pricing models in our space are just starting to get thrown out the window. Um, it is difficult to estimate the effort for the fear of overestimation these days. With new models constantly coming out, like I said in the beginning, is anytime a new model comes out, the time gets reduced, the effort gets reduced. So what we're probably starting to see, and this is probably going to be important for both brands hiring vendors and vendors like us, is we'll probably see a switch in pricing models, maybe even sooner than 5 years. 5 years is it's kind of far. I don't even know if we'll be around in 5 years, still doing the same thing here, to be honest. So just seeing what we're seeing is just it's mind blowing. So but we're being cautious here. But pricing models will shift to where it's no longer going to be related to the effort because the effort has been commoditized and automated. And it will be more so in a year or two. So, and from there on, I think most of what we do, if not everything, will be automated at that point. Um, it's honestly hard to say what's going to stick. Value judgment is probably going to remain. I hope maybe, you know, um, but thinking that far away. I hope we're still here and hope we're still meeting for Sitecore symposiums. That's my hope. Otherwise, I think it's a lot of the things that we do right now will be automated, mostly, if not fully, based on what we're seeing. If we can build a new CMS in a couple of weeks, if we can automate so many things these days, it's hard to predict what's going to happen in a couple of years. So on that note, I'll stop. What I'll do is, if for those watching this, you can either rewind or I'll go back so you guys can take screenshots of these things. I didn't cover all the points on this, so there's a lot here. But if you have any questions or feedback, let us know in the comments. Happy to brainstorm or even just have another session. Maybe if we get a lot of feedback, we'll have a roundtable maybe during our next LA SUG on these topics. These are very interesting, and they may change with every new model. So, all right. On that note, Martin, I'll hand it over to you to catch us up to date on what's been happening in the cyberspace.
Thank you, Vasiliy. That was really insightful. So my part basically splits into two pieces. I will start with commercial and corporate development and then switch to more technical things. So the biggest non-technical move in 2026 is clearly Sitecore acquisition of Scrunch. That was announced a few weeks ago, June 3rd, 2026. And officially, the deal is about helping brands to shape how they appear in AI-powered search and all these answer engines combining visibility insights with omnichannel content optimization so that customers get personalized guidance from discovery to decision. So what Scrunch essentially is, it's an answer engine, generative engine optimization play. It examines how brands appear in responses from systems such as ChatGPT, Gemini, Perplexity, and similar. The flagship product of Scrunch is Agent Experience Platform, which delivers content formatted for LLMs in a way AI agents can read and use without disrupting the human experience. So there is strategic why behind Scrunch. It's kind of bet or gamble that the website is no longer a center of a journey. And as you know, the vast majority of traffic today is already coming from LLMs rather than from search engines. The next thing I want to talk about is geographic expansion in the way how deployments happening. So currently, Sitecore announced sovereign or dedicated Sitecore deployments for Singapore. That was, I think, in March. Saudi Arabia, with delivery happening in Q4. And also there is United Arab Emirates late in 2026. What in practice that is all about regulated market adoption. So we are thinking of data residency, low latency, and of course compliance and all similar things. So there is expectation these things will come to more granular European market, but time will prove. Company is also using recognition and customer wins to reinforce Sitecore narrative. Sitecore was announced as a leader in the 2026 Gartner Magic Quadrant for content marketer marketing platform. And actually, the pleasant story was they got 8 wins of the, I think, 14 possible for CMS Critic Awards. including best enterprise CMS, best headless CMS, for a couple for DXP, CMP, DAM. So literally all range in their arsenal. And of course, best AI solution, which is especially valuable these days. Sitecore is aggressively pushing into AI-first digital experience under their own Sitecore AI banner. So Sitecore's own messaging now leans on phrases like agentic web and content as the brand's most valuable equity, a notable shift from terms like headless CMS, positioning, and it's more about where the roadmap is heading. So they have a program launched to co-develop AI use cases available for current Sitecore customers. This program is called Sitecore AI Innovation Lab. So Sitecore themselves framed this lab as a response to a practical marketer problem. So what happens is companies, they want AI, but they not want to spend budget. And of course, they don't want to risk political capital on unclear AI experiments. And Sitecore says 97% of marketing executives prioritize AI, while teams can spend up to 85% of their time on content and operational tasks. So the lab is meant to reduce the where do we even start problem by giving customers access to Sitecore and Microsoft experts, then quickly testing whether a proposed AI use case is valuable at all, feasible, and safe enough to pursue. Sitecore also says that customer-developed AI innovations can be integrated into Sitecore DXP enhancements in future. Last but not least here, we have a flagship upcoming event, which of course is Symposium 2026. It's scheduled for November 10 to 12th, same place, Orlando. We already have call for speaker open, and feel free to drop your proposals. This event is open for marketers, developers, digital leaders, partners, practitioners, customers. So all the people behind Sitecore specifically. And Sitecore also published submission tips, urgent proposal that focus on real measurable results. So that's what being prioritized by the committee. So let's go to the next slide about the technical releases.
Well, yes, one feedback for folks from Sitecore, if you watch this, you know, we are this year, the timeline for submission was pretty short. We were just talking about that. Of course, we can use AI and automate submissions. I can create 5 submissions in 5 minutes these days. It doesn't mean those are going to be quality submission 1. And I really hope that the Sitecore judges, because we saw something similar being done on the client side, where clients are now evaluating proposals with AI also, but that AI isn't trained correctly or instructed correctly to pay attention to certain things. So it's basically there's garbage in, garbage out on both sides. So I really hope this doesn't happen on both sides, on the submission side and on the evaluation side. It's Sitecore, if you're listening to this, please make sure you do thorough evaluation instead of just relying on AI. All right, Mark, back to you.
Very true, actually. Very true. With that in mind, let's switch to the technical release and roadmap digest. Okay, the big one. Sitecore has not publicly abandoned XP and XM. On the contrary, the official product strategy page still points to the company's ongoing commitment to XP excellence. And they explicitly reference in 10.5 and beyond. 10.5 is planned for this summer, and there are no plans to sunset XP. If you look at the download side, it still presents 10.4 as the latest experience platform. So speaking about Sitecore support, 10.4 entered general availability from April 2024. So the mainstream still it remains until December 27. Then you will have 3 years more of the extended support through December 2030. But again, there might be sustaining support through December 32. So speaking about support, specifically, I want to emphasize support model also changed in the beginning of this month. So production incident support and security fixes in extended support specifically became paid option now rather than the bundled one. This is the important change, but that only relates to extended support. Okay, number 3, authoring and optimization story. It becomes especially active in 2026. If we take a look at Sitecore page builder alone, it got so many changes recently that I really, I literally cannot help just going and notifying them. So from what we saw over the past month, we get standard fields in the content panel changes, configurable rich text editor toolbars, publishing performance get improved. Yes, again, version visibility improvements and permission fixes. We got availability for unpublishing with pages. That's another big theme. Component personalization. Dedicated site setting tab appeared just a few weeks ago. And literally another week ago, improvement we had relates to the usability improvements. So we've got something like see the live page option in the preview menu. So the page shows exactly as it's live. And a quick switch to content mode, much clearer field validation highlight, and the ability to open component directly in Design Studio from pages. Plus, we get fixes around language right access enforcement and those translation status scoping. Oh yeah, one more. We actually got audience targeting for A/B tests just a few days ago. Number 4, in parallel to the authoring experience, we see the changelog formally schedules Explorer and Experience Editor deprecation date. So I repeat that again. Experience Editor, as we know it, will be deprecated at the end of this year. Explorer will get deprecated even earlier in October. But I don't know, does anyone use Explorer at all? But Experience Editor for sure. With big notification that it only relates to Sitecore AI, and basically we don't need much Experience Editor these days because of the content SDK, and I will talk about that later. Okay, let's go ahead. AI. Let's talk about AI orchestration layer. It's also getting maturing quickly, very, very quickly. So we now have Agentic Studio, which was launched after Symposium, but in 2026, it gained more governance and collaboration control. We get more customizable agents, spaces, and content workflows as well. Now there is Agent API version 2.0, and we also get Marketer MCP enhancement. Then Agent API support for personalization as well as Marketer MCP. It also supports personalization now. And again, A/B experiments coming back just a few weeks ago. So a dedicated web search tool was added in Brand Assistant, configurable writing styles and information sources, and also there is support for PDF upload across Sitecore AI, Content Hub, and Stream. Another thing, and shout out I want to say for the licensing. Previously, it was complicated, but now the part got pretty much simplified. Sitecore moved to 1 metric per module, simplified consumption-based pricing with all AI capabilities included rather than upsold, 3 pre-built agents, and 5 built seats free. That's it. Simple as that. Speaking about the other products, Search, Marketplace, Content Hub, all of them are moving too. So let's talk about Search. We have notification changes added. We have Delta crawling improvements just a few weeks ago. And we get questions and answer groups again a couple of weeks ago. So you feel where it's coming. Yes, it's AO. It's all going to that direction. When we talk about the marketplace, we get support for search configuration REST API. We get AI skills API, brand review, Marketer MCP integration. Uh, there actually was a grace period behavior for deleted public apps added, so that if you are using some app and it got deleted by developer, there won't be immediate surprise. There will be some time for settlement. Marketplace now support file downloads, which is cool. Um, and recently, they also introduced a stricter public app security disclosure requirements. So now the app must clearly say what they are going to do and how they manage the data. Speaking about Content Hub, so now DAM connector for Contentful, that's the thing. Analytics also moved to general availability. Uh, so what else? They added package integrity validations on imports as well recently. Let's talk about vNext. Have any of you heard the term vNext? Do you know what does it mean? So Sitecore
Many
vNext,
times.
it's been on horizon. That's when we speak or hear vNext, this is something that coming after 10.5, okay? So Sitecore Next being on Horizon, built on modern.NET with no massive site rewrites, no forced migration, and a more gradual adoption model. So this is described as a modern.NET based technology. Like it's more like gradual adoption through strangler fit pattern, AI authoring built in, refreshed content editor, possible support for all the latest .NET 10, Windows Server, latest SQL Server, so all the latest technologies. We actually been demonstrated the new content model, how it all works, where the publishing is just a matter of a flag rather than an extensive operation. And that was demonstrated almost like I think 14 months ago at SuCon, it was firstly demonstrated. So that's not shipped product, so we just can only rumor and gamble what it will be. So we don't have any specific announcement, but community is spreading rumors.
Wait, time check.
Last but yeah,
Okay.
I'm reaching the last point. Last but not least, we as community we're getting to content SDK migration pressure. So GSS goes out of support for Sitecore AI, and that happens in a few days from now. We already get Content SDK 2.0, which is the modern, shiny. It moves to Next.js 16. It has latest Node.js 24. It gets support for search, analytics, personalization packages. Actually, AI agent support is there. More modular architecture is in place. So there's no reason to use GSS with Sitecore AI. And actually, for those who missed that part, Content SDK has entirely replaced GSS for XM Cloud and later Sitecore AI. Aline toolkit built around a single Sitecore client interface for Next.js. And actually, sooner Angular support is also getting there. We heard that for months, but it's supposed to be actually in June, but nothing on public space was announced. But anyway, it support all the named features, but without experience editor support, so there is no reason to keep that rudimental editing interface since experience editor is being deprecated in XM Cloud in favor of pages, leaner, faster, and easier to maintain. So in my opinion, that were all the major news for technology and for commerce and marketing.
If one caveat on that content SDK, if you are in Angular and thinking about a rebuild, we had this is a big
Got
topic with
expertise.
one of our clients. Well, yeah, one will have plenty of expertise on that, but two, if you're trying to decide whether to wait for content SDK or build on GSS, our recommendation would be to build on GSS now because the effort of shifting to content SDK is going to be minimal for component rebuild. Almost it's, reference updates basically is what we're talking about for the most part. How we know it, we have the person who wrote the spec for content SDK for Angular uh, on our end, and also checking what's there right now in GitHub right now. It's what's being released is aligning with all that information. So don't wait. If there's time pressure, JSS is a completely valid path forward. It is getting deprecated at some point on the Angular side. Support is still continuing for JSS on the Angular side. When that is going to be dropped, it's TBD. But one thing we know is Sitecore never left anyone hanging without proper support and proper path. So that's a safe path forward given conversion efforts can be minimal.
There is expectation that Sitecore will not just ship the guidance for migrating GSS Angular into Content SDK, but they will also provide the toolset. AI-based toolset skills for doing things automatically, because it's just, indeed, this is mechanical rather than some sort of intellectual or puzzle. And that would be it.
All right. In the interest of time, Martin, thank you so much. I
Pleasure.
will go ahead and stop sharing. Great information, guys. If anyone again has questions, please post them in the comments. And Alison, we'll turn that over to you to take us to school on content.
Hi, this is exciting. I would prefer to be in LA rather than in Sydney presenting remotely in LA, because I do quite like LA. But it's still fun to be doing this anyhow. So hello from a wet and relatively cold Sydney. We don't really say that very much. Anyhow, I'm going to get straight into this. So, what I'm going to talk about today is this big topic that everybody has suddenly gotten very concerned about, which is content structure. And really hear about demystifying content structure to help marketers improve AI discoverability and content reuse. Now, based on that part there, which I got some of. I'm not technical. Okay. I'm somewhat technical. I'm probably more technical than most marketers. But if this is a technical audience, then the way that I would suggest you think about what I'm about to present is that this can help you explain to your marketing people what this is. There is, a webinar available on sitecore.com, which is me presenting this information. That would be if you've got, your marketing, your business, your content team who are in that, well, what do we need to do? We've lost all of our traffic, etc. This is, and they're telling you, oh, we've got to have our schema in there. And you're like, okay, any more information, and they don't have any more information. This is absolutely great for them. All right. This is breaking it down, and you might even learn something too. So let's get into it. Okay, that's me. I am a strategy MVP. You are also going to be talking to the other strategy MVP in APJ right after me, Cade. So do stick around for that one because that'll be fun. Anyhow, I used to work at Sitecore. I used to run sitecore.com, and before that, I established SBOSS in this region. And prior to that, I was always customer side. But I've been on the platform since 2014 with XP 8.0. Everybody likes you to quote the numbers. And I am very much on the tools, as they like to say. Okay, so quick kind of what on earth is going on. Won't spend long on this. I'll go through this pretty quickly, but there are some very quotable numbers that you can use if you need to explain to people why is this happening. So 60% of traditional Google searches are now ending without a click. That number goes to 93% in AI mode. So with AI overviews, this is where we're at. You've lost 60%. In AI mode, 93%. Your organic click-through rate dropping by a similar number. Even if you've done all the work to get to number one position, you're still losing about 60% of that traffic. Now, this is particularly like Australian relevant because that's who I wrote this for. Sorry. But I'm pretty much, I will guarantee you that this is a very similar number, certainly across, industrialized nations. Okay. The growth in usage, interestingly for us here, that number was from June last year, and the AI overviews at the top of search rolled out in October. So the number is even higher. And then random fact that I kind of stumbled across was that Alphabet, obviously the parent company of Google, in Q1 of this year, they had a 20% growth in paid search spending, which is the first time in a while that they've had like a really big jump in paid search spending. That is because everybody's trying to scrape up any budget they have, and budget is not, I don't know anybody who's like, yeah, I got money to spend right now, and put it into paid media to make up for lost traffic, which, by the way, doesn't work. Anyhow, so, and Google obviously has said to us all, buckle up. All right. We're not going backwards. That was, hold on, that was the SEO results page for the term SEO, very meta of me, in 2022. Now with the AI overviews pushing it down, we've got that like 65% loss of traffic. And of course, a few weeks ago, they just said, okay, boom, we are moving to AI mode as the default, which is where you're at that 93% loss of pre-traffic volume, which again, I don't know how many marketers are listening to this, but for the developers, that is chaos. 93% of organic, or, just when people are coming to you because they're looking for you, that is obviously a much better customer than anything that you're pushing out in front of their face to say, hi, come and buy from me. So that is bad. Okay. That is bad if you're not ready for it. So we'll go past all this pretty quickly, but basically the customer's reclaiming the experience because we've done a pretty terrible job at providing one for them. And of course it's more than just the buyer. It's also your own internal tools. It's also any other third parties, kind of non-buyer personas, your on-site search, what is happening in these platforms. All of this stuff is going in exactly the same direction, which, depending on who you talk to, it's got different names, but I'm calling it the omni-channel content platform. So this is absolutely where Sitecore is going. Sitecore AI is very rapidly heading in this direction, and I am so excited. But the other platforms are doing this too. It's not one vendor rather than the other. The question is going to be which one gets there first, and how easy do they make it for people to do it. So let me explain what it is. The omnichannel content platform is sometimes also called maybe like a generative CMS, or God help us, a generative DXP. The XP part just makes me crazy. Okay, so basically think of it as like the nexus of content assets and search. So you get your content management system where you are managing modular content, not pages, like modules, components of information with context on them. You've got your asset management part, again, with that same taxonomy, that same contextual information, and you have your on-site search. And on-site search is very definitely heading in the direction as Martin and Vasiliy talked about earlier, where it's effectively becoming your own internal LLM that sits right there. So, it's a very interesting space. So all of that, of course, is wrapped in the contextual data and taxonomies, which we'll talk about, as well as unified localization if you need it. Now, you will still have websites. Rumors of the website being dead are premature. You'll have own domains like you do now. So this is where it gets really interesting, though. How do you work with those own domains? Yeah, you can do traditional web content management. There are always some pages that, for business reasons and frankly the ego of some people, they'll want to manage that manually. They'll want to say this is what goes on the about page or the home page or whatever. But that will become less, okay? Because what we are going towards is this dynamic experience rendering, right? So think about where a platform like Sitecore Search is, like I said, more of an LLM, and you are creating a page which is almost like your golden rendering, your golden page or something. The word golden is going to be happening a lot. And you're saying, okay, this is, what it should be, but then also with decisioning behind it to say, depending on the customer's context, I want you to do this or that. So, for a first-time visitor, as an example, okay, you could have it set up to say, if we have, this data, then do this. If not, do this. If not, do that. So the way that you would do that would be to start with the smallest segment first, right? So you might say, if I have, for example, a some kind of reverse IP lookup, like an account-based management platform, then I might say my first rule is if person matches, account-based management platform reverse IP lookup, then use the firmographic data to personalize, focusing on industry and, customer status, for example. Okay, so mapping into that's a rich data layer. That's a bit of work to get that bit set up. But then the next thing that you might do is go, okay, if they don't match into that, then have they come from a campaign tag? They've come from a campaign tag, then map the campaign tag into showing them whatever's relevant to the campaign, right? The content on the site that has the same campaign tag. Or if they haven't, if that doesn't work, then just personalize on geo, right? Just give me geographic personalization. And then as they ask questions, obviously the visitor, the cookie builds and stuff, and that continues to be personalized. The important thing here is that you don't manage these as pages. Okay, you're no longer building hundreds and thousands and sometimes hundreds of thousands of pages in your CMS. You have components which are probably a lot less fluffy than a page, right? A lot less of that kind of marketing fluff around it, and a lot more structured content of, this is the information about my products, this is the information about my services, this is the information about my people, my entities, this is our technical information, etc. Right? You don't need to be having all of those pages in a content tree. The whole kind of concept of the tree, gone. All right. You are instead kind of operating in this relational database of content, assets, and taxonomies. So, and then it's coming out like that. I know that sounds like a lot, but it is absolutely where we're going, and it's not as hard to get there as you would think. Anyhow, the benefits of doing that, aside from, think about it. That means automatic one-on-one individualization and personalization happening at scale without you having to do it. All right, because obviously as the AI grows, then it starts making recommendations of decisioning and things like that. Okay, so it's the beginning and then the monitoring. Anyhow, so the other side of that is the MCP, which I won't talk about this too much because Cade's about to tell you all about it. So your platform has got this MCP that puts out this structured data to everywhere else. So your customers, LLMs, AI, they're reading the MCP. It's presenting you the way that you are telling it you want to be presented. And it's also working with all of your corporate agents. So, this really strong taxonomy, context, structural mapping around the content and the assets also works with your corporate agents. So if you were maybe building a tool to build reports or, respond to tenders or something like that, this is going to be a lot better in terms of an output. Or, your Sitecore AI tool that is, creating a campaign page will work a lot better with this whole clean taxonomy. That's where you're going. And to be honest, I think we are 6 to 9 months from that kind of capability being on the market. Very different story about where brands are going to be for it. Okay, so but the difference in the model is really simple. Oh, and that obviously will feed those other channels as well. You're not managing pages, you're managing structured knowledge. Structured knowledge, the structure is where you architect context. Marketers need to be building knowledge systems, not websites now going forward. So what do you do about that? Okay. Well, content structure. Content. Have you guys heard about content structure? Everybody's talking about content structure. What's content structure? It's probably the first question, because a lot of this stuff is just not stuff you've ever been taught. Okay, so let's break it down. We're going to imagine that we're working for a company called Sirius Insurance. And Sirius Insurance has an article about understanding health insurance, which is, you know, an important topic. So in their article template, they would have a bunch of fields and components. Okay, so there's the heading, hero, author, etc. You know, some intro text, FAQs, related items, link to the product, and then some tags, you know, that you might call your taxonomies or something else. What is it about? What industry is it for, etc. You've got tags in there. Now, if we zoom out from that page a little bit and we look at the code around it, you all know there's a head tag and the content structure is defined in the head. So you've got fields like a title tag, meta description, open graph for social and other channels, canonical and robots, which tell crawlers how to understand your site. Now, of course, there's a lot of other stuff in the head. That's where you guys live. But for this instance, what I'm focused on is this, the JSON LD, structured schema markup. This is the machine readable code that tells the platforms what your content is, who created it, and what it's about. Now, if you don't have this, and most people don't, everything, AI is really guessing at what's on your page because it doesn't read your pages like search crawlers do. So this is where a lot of that inaccuracy is coming from. Okay, now what's really important, particularly for marketers to understand, but also again for the developers, you understand this, all of this stuff should be built and assigned at the template level. And Sitecore has always been very good at these kinds of relational structures, but the template becomes very important. And that's something I'm going to emphasize a little bit. So breaking down what the schema markup really looks like, you know, it's written in JSON LD code, which confusingly is written in the code as LD plus JSON. I don't know who made that decision, but I'd really like to talk to them about why. Anyhow, just like one name would be great. Could you just help me out here? So the LD bit obviously indicates the linked data. So linking to a common scheme. So in this case, schema.org. There are other ones out there, but schema.org is absolutely the most widely used, the most widely accepted standard, and a very good place to start unless you have really technical needs. So inside those two is the fun bit, okay? So this is where we have all of the stuff, which is the entities of what this is. So the entity, this is an article. So if I can make my mouse work, there it is. Oh, no, hold on. You know what? I did the wrong one. That's it. I need the highlighter. Okay. So this is type article. This is an article, right? And the article type has got properties. Some of them, like headline, are required. You've got to have that. Others are recommended and optional, but a lot of stuff is left out. So for this one here, we've got a headline and we have an author, obviously the dates and stuff, the publisher, the about, and the audience. I would call that the bare minimum. Okay. And most companies don't have all that. All right. I would call that the absolute bare minimum. There's about 100 properties in the article schema type. So there's probably a lot more that you could be using, right? The question is, do you have the ability to do that? Now, what's cool here is to look at this when you kind of look at, say, this author, right? You can see that that's linking to another type. So this is, you know, nested types, right? So, and this is a really important part of linking into what's called the knowledge graph that I'll explain in a second. But basically, you're linking one type to another. So linking an article to a person, linking a publisher to an organization, linking the about to a product. This is really important stuff. And the way that that then kind of works in the knowledge graph is that that organization will link off to where the organization is existing in the knowledge graph, where that entity is in the knowledge graph. You're like, what is all this knowledge graph she's talking about? Let me explain. AI and LLMs, and in fact, for that matter, search engines, this standard's been around since 2011, but it's now become the standard, use what's called a knowledge graph to understand the world. So a knowledge graph uses a shared data structure, most oftenly the schema.org data structure, to map known named entities, which is just a fancy word for a thing, and the relationship between them. So the JSON LD is how you identify your entities, your things, your brand, your products, your services, your people, your articles, all of those entities into that data structure, right? Into that schema.org data structure, which relieves the machine of the job of doing it and probably getting it wrong. Okay, so as an example, our health insurance article, I said, is part of the schema type article. Okay, an article has got properties. So one property is a publisher that's going to a new entity, which is organization. One property is author that's linking to the Jane Smith entity. One is like the about, what is it about? And that's linking into a financial product entity, which is a specific entity in and of itself. And there are a lot of specific product entities in here. One of them mentions, it mentions a defined term. So that's another thing that's in here is defined terms. And there's also audiences. Who is this audience? Who is it aimed at? And then behind that as well, like, within the knowledge graph, you have Sirius Insurance as an organization entity is also linked as the provider of a financial product. All right. And then Sirius Insurance works, so Jane Smith works for the entity, she works for the organization, and she has, established expertise and EEAT, the Experience, Expertise, Authority, and Trust expertise. Jane Smith has it in health insurance. Okay. So if we could do a side by side, if you've got somebody who's asking a search engine and somebody who's asking an AEO, where do I get hospital cover for singles, which is probably more of an Australian question than an American one, but that's fine. This is how it works. The crawler reads your page to interpret it. Okay, so a search, we all know this. The SEO crawler, the spider comes in, it reads the whole page and interprets it, and it stores the title and the metadata, ignores, keywords and things like that, completely ignores them because of all the naughty things people did with them. The LLM, on the other hand, is looking for the entities. Okay, and if you have declared your entities, you've got all that in the head, it reads it and it goes, cool, I am putting you in my list. So the search, not the list, the database. So the search engine then basically operates a big index of ranked pages. So these pages are authoritative on this topic, okay? While the LLM has mapped your entities into the knowledge graph, okay? So our customers ask the question, one asking to the SEO and one asking to the LLM. The search engine goes, this is a question about health insurance for, singles and hospital cover. I have these pages that I have read and determined are good, and they've got other signals in there saying that this is authoritative. I will pull those pages. Whereas the LLM is going, okay, health insurance, financial product, who have I got? All right. Where have I got like expertise signals? Where do I have, answers to these questions? What is looking, they look in that, basically in that entity. Okay. Obviously this all happens very fast. And then SEO returns 10 blue links, right? It returns, and probably some rich snippet stuff at the top or what have you. But basically it gives you a ranked list of pages and it hopes that you're going to click on one of them. Increasingly, that is less likely to happen, because what SEO is really giving you is a job. Okay, you've asked it to answer a question and it's saying, cool, here's how you go and find the answer to that question. And customers just don't want that. I don't want that. I'm like, don't give me a list of links that I have to find out stuff from. I actually just want an answer that I can trust. Which is why the LLMs are working. The answer will be composed there. Okay, it will say Sirius Insurance offers highly rated hospital cover for singles. So the failure, if you're not doing this work in SEO, the failure is a low ranking, but you can still be found. Okay, so they might kind of scroll through a few times, but you're going to turn up. If you don't have the right content structure in place in AEO, the failure is that, you probably won't turn up. And if you do, it'll get it wrong. All right. So you've really got to have this context piece. Now, this is something that I really want to emphasize, because this is not instead of great content. And there's a lot of information out there right now that says, oh, AEO, like, you just write the right content, just write content that answers the question. Of course, you need to write content that answers the question. You've always needed to write content that answers the question. Rich snippets have been around for a few years. I'm sure you're aware of that. So you still need all of that stuff. You still need good content. You still need quality writing. You still need a regular cadence. You still need all of those pieces, but you also need these pieces, right? And how the content is typed and templated, how it's tagged and categorized, and how is it marked up for machines to read. So these things are now of equal importance. All right, 3 steps. Start now. I'll go through this as fast as I can, guys, I promise, but there is, lots more information available. So this is the chain of AEO operations, and I have done it in this order for very good reasons, okay? But it does start with a content inventory. When I ran a workshop recently, 37 people in the room representing a lot of different brands, and not one of them had done a content audit in the last 2 years. That's a problem. They need to start with that. Schema mapping, to me, comes after that, and I'll explain why. Then taxonomy design, and then you can move into a measurement and optimization phase. So the content inventory, in addition to being an audit, needs to answer these kinds of questions. You need to know, what have you got and how is it set up? Schema mapping, you need, this is where we're going to talk about how does it fit the knowledge graph? What do I need to make sure that I am represented where I should be in the knowledge graph? And then you go, well, I probably don't have all the information that I need on there in the way that I need it. So now we're going to need to look at our taxonomies, which again have probably not been designed by a marketer anyhow. So that's a whole piece of interesting stuff. And then measurement and optimization. So, when you've got this in place and AI can find and cite it, then obviously monitoring citations and making sure that, everything is going along well is really good. And plug for Sitecore Scrunch, this is the perfect time to use it. What a cutie. So really important thing here, which I've already mentioned and I'll mention again, is that the schema and taxonomy types that you're allowed to have are configured at a template level. So you have to get that part right. And that's why the first step is a content inventory. Now, this is not just a cleanup. I won't spend too much time on this because most people know what this is, and there's lots of information, including articles written by myself on Sitecore.com about how to do a content audit. But it's not just about deleting content, right? It's not just about, yay, finally we get to delete things. You also need to ask these questions. What content types do you currently have? And I mean content types. If you're like, oh, well, we've got, maybe an article template, and the article template includes different kinds of things. It includes our technical articles, it includes our research articles, it includes our blog posts, it includes our company announcements. We're using the same article template for everything. That's not going to work. You're going to need to create a news template or something like that, because you need to have different schema and different taxonomy on different types of content. So what content types do you have? What templates are in use? And is the right content on the right template? Very important. And if you have been using a general template, or maybe going, it's fine, I'm just going to use my, my team template or something to represent my case study, or something, that's not good. You're going to need to get those templates sorted out. You can and probably do have great content sitting on a general page template, which is going to make it all but invisible to AI. You need to know what you have so you can identify the schema. Like I said, content types is where we're starting. Okay, the content type maps into those schema articles, schema types. So you need all that. The content audit is key, and also content audits must be done regularly. So again, if you're one of those people who hasn't done a content audit in a couple of years, that's going to change. You should be doing a content audit at least every 6 months, and probably more often if you're doing a lot of volume. So once you've got a clean list of current content, then you can move on to the schema mapping. Now, this is not that difficult, okay? Implementing it, bit trickier, but working out what you need to do, pretty straightforward. You pick one of the key pages. So again, I would think, don't go for the homepage. Believe it or not, it's not a key page. It's a front door, but nobody buys anything when they walk in the front door. Product, article, service, person, those kinds of pages. Key information pages, the stuff that you're writing to get people in. Then you go to schema.org and you click the validate button and you paste the URL and you run it. Okay. Then you're going to get some results. Now, no items detected means there's no JSON LD in place. Okay, nothing. All right, we're starting from a blank slate. Error messages, possible crawler block. For the developers out there, I want to make this very clear to you. You cannot be blocking the AI validators. And this is a pretty standard Cloudflare and WAF setup. You need to unblock them. So go look in that, go do this and have a look and see what the result is. And if it is blocked, please unblock it. Because that's going to stop you from turning up at all. And then if there's items detected, then you have schema and you can see what's there and you can see what's missing. Now, honestly, the best bet to work out what am I missing and what could I possibly do was actually just to go to an AI tool and work through it. Okay, so go there, paste the page source. You might also need to actually get the HTML, like view page source, and paste that in if you're having problems. But I would say paste the page source into your AI tool and ask it to diagnose the gaps. Ask it to look for missing schema types. Give it a bit of information about who you are and what it is that you do. And then say, what is not on this page that could add further context? This is a really good question to ask, okay? If you want to shortcut all that, I have built a gem in Gemini for you that you can access on that URL. And you can just paste the link in there and ask it to analyze it. It does require a Google account, but it's a free Google account. Don't need to pay for it. Okay, so as an example of how this worked, Bupa, which is a health insurance company, actually volunteered an article for me, an article on hearing loss, and I reviewed it and I ran it through the validator, etc. And this is what I found. And you can find that article if you like on Australian Blue Eye site, whatever. But it has got some schema in place. This is a really common actual output, and this is a Sitecore site. It has got schema in place. It screams to me that it's the basic schema, right? That it's basically the out of the box. The developers have probably put this in place because somebody asked them to, or else they did it themselves, which is great. But it's the bare minimum, right? What's also fun, and it doesn't kind of turn up here, but they put in a relative URL on the image, but anyhow. So it does have article schema, and the ownership of the article is linked to the kind of overall identity of the brand. And the crawlers aren't blocked. So 3 great things, which is great. But this is, again, article. This is about 6 properties. There's 110 properties in the article. So there's a lot of other options. Obviously, it's missing, firstly, the about. What topic is it about? What are the defined terms, etc. This is an article about how to tell if your tinnitus is really hearing loss. This is a medical article written by medical experts. It has got a lot of additional schema that can be added. The image URL is actually relative, not absolute. So schema.org resolved it, but not everything will. And obviously you shouldn't be putting relative URLs out there for an image. They're also completely missing the global schema. So there are certain global schemas that should be on every page of your site, including things like organization, which basically says all of this belongs to this company, and then web page, which is like all of this belongs to this website, and then the breadcrumb list, which just gives you that, that kind of nice traceable upwards thing. Those should be on absolutely every page. They should be on your base page template. So they're not there. And also, and this is a common one, and this is one again, for the devs, I'm talking to you, you cannot be injecting JSON via a client-side JavaScript. All right, it needs to be right there. The 8 search engines do kind of load the page and read it. LLMs don't. All right, they are not loading it through a browser, therefore they're not triggering anything that's injectable. It needs to be on the page. So that's a really important one. So that's what it looks like in practice. That's a scheme go, right? And the other thing, there's missing fields there. The missing information is not random. Okay, we'll talk about that in a sec. Anyhow, I want to emphasize this because there's a lot of rubbish going around out there right now about AEO. Schema is not a hack, okay? And don't hack it. Don't go doing the, like, I've heard people in the last week or so saying, you know, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to build a specific website for the AI. Right, I'm going to have like a separate website. I'm going to detect if it's an AI, or I'm going to deliver different content to it so that it is better optimized for AEO. Don't do that. Okay, if we do that, we're going to end up with exactly the same places that we were with SEO and various black hat techniques, you know, that end up being, you know, banned. This is why we don't have keywords anymore, for God's sake. That's not a good idea. That it will not last. Okay. Schema is not a hack. It is infrastructure. Okay. You build it once and you build it at the template level. Obviously, it might change. You might work through it, but you're not doing it page by page. Okay. This works for every piece of content that is published on that template, including the ones that your internal AI tools are reading. So the schema tells the machine what your content means and not just what it says. It builds that entity presence, right, in your text, in your knowledge graph. So it puts you all over the place. It's not about this one page of content. It makes you more likely to be cited in AI overviews and in AI mode because the relationships are unambiguous and it is fast and easy for the machine to understand. And it will also power your own internal tools, any RAG stuff that you're doing, etc., etc. Improve on-site search. So, you know, SEO and your CMS and Sitecore search, they all do read these schema fields as well. So like there is a lot of other benefits, including, like I said, it will improve your traditional SEO for as long as such a thing even lasts. What it does not do is it will not guarantee that you appear. Okay, I'm sure it's going to make a big difference if you do it properly because very few companies have, and there's a massive first mover opportunity sitting on the table right now. But it won't guarantee that you appear in any AI response, and it doesn't replace quality content. Okay, you still do need good content. I've said that, and I will continue to stand by that. Quality content is not marketing fluff, though. Quality content is good content, answers questions, provides information. So, you know, AI will not amplify mediocre content. You're pretty much just going to be lost. It won't fix a crawl block. Please look at your Cloudflare and WAF. The crawlability has to come first. And as I said, it will not work if it's delivered via a JavaScript that the crawlers can't execute. So looking back at the schema gaps that we talked about earlier and what it can and can't do, the key gap is that schema can only declare what your content contains. So if we think about these schema fields here of like topic and mentions and audience and even author for that matter, you have to make sure that you have a structured data there that will feed those free text and informal tags and saying, oh, it's, I mean, you cannot pull determine what the topic of this is from reading, pulling in an entire intro paragraph or something. You need to have a tag. You need to have something which is controlled and mapped into that schema in such a way that it makes sense. Because, again, if it's like financial product hospital cover, you don't want them putting hospital cover here and hospital insurance there and coverage insurance, like millions of different names. One name, canonical. So the taxonomy here is the answer. The taxonomy is a controlled vocabulary that gives those fields something consistent and meaningful to declare. I'm not going to go into this in too much detail because I'm sure you're just going, oh my God, taxonomies, that is a whole other thing that, can spend, weeks and months talking about, which is true. But the taxonomies for the marketers needs to be something that the marketing team starts to own. All of this needs to be owned by the marketing team, okay? But particularly the taxonomies, because the taxonomies are a shared data structure that will go across your entire MarTech stack. So this is a structure which connects your content, your assets, your data, and behavior of what's happening, okay? It is a mechanism that will enable all of this stuff that Vasiliy was talking about and Martin was talking about, of automation and improved search and AI and everything. The taxonomy is so, so, so important, right? It is the difference between chaos and context. So you should have a globally governed, agreed taxonomy for the business, which talks about who are you, what do you sell, who do you sell it to, how do you sell it, all of that information. And it would go across all of these platforms as an example. So obviously in your CMS and your DAM and search, but also it should be aligned to your CRM. Your CRM, I'd be thinking about, what does my customer data look like, particularly in terms of, well, what industries do I sell to? Is the industry term consistent, or are you calling industries by different names in different places? What about geography? Is that consistent? This stuff needs to be consistent, and I mean down to the term. Okay. Your email, your marketing automation, your email segments, your campaign names, your Google Analytics dimensions. Fun fact, JSON LD can be also exposed as a GA4 dimension, which can really help you with your reporting. Segment naming and just everything needs to be aligned to the taxonomy, okay? So for Bupa, and that article, I pulled out a couple of things that are particularly relevant. This is a 6 principles of taxonomy design that I've designed, but there is 3 things here that are particularly relevant for that article. So number 1 is that it does have a taxonomy kind of label on it, and the taxonomy label is health checks. Health checks is fine, but it's kind of what somebody would search for, not necessarily, it's not what an entity, what it would be in the schema. So preventative care would be a taxonomy term. You can call it whatever you like on the front end, okay? So the display label there is really important. It's literally just normal display labels, potentially controlled also by, site or language versions, right? But, if the canonical term is cardiovascular, because that's what fits into, the entity, but you want to call it heart health, you can do that. You use a display label. The other benefit of using the display label is if somebody runs a campaign and goes, wow, it turns out that cardiac care is performing so much better than heart health these days. We need to change that label. You can change the display label. You do not change the canonical term underneath, because that's all connected into things. And then the other one was like global versus domain specific. So, you have different kinds of taxonomies. Global ones are available on all the pages, and domain specific are, available on a particular kind of content. That's what the domain part means. So article type, audience, etc. on your article page, on your article template, but then medical condition would go into a global thing for them, because they might be tagging medical condition on an article or a product or a service or a person or whatever, right? So medical condition would be a global term, okay? So once you've done all that work, obviously you can move into measurement and optimization. Won't spend too long here, but this is just measuring, making sure that you're kind of addressing what is ever happening in the citations that you're turning up in and the prompts that you're turning up on. Obviously, Scrunch is a great option for that. It looks like it has some really cool stuff, and this is me running the little Scrunch report for Bupa. And then governance, and this one I would really, really stress hard. You cannot let the taxonomy just do whatever it's doing. Somebody has to own it, right? Somebody has to safeguard it from getting random stuff shoved in there. Somebody has to make sure it's regularly reviewed. Again, align it to what kinds of, search questions you're getting on your site. What topics are working out there. That's where you want to be looking at your taxonomy and reviewing it, okay? And obviously, if anything changes in your business strategy, you'd be updating it. The same way you need to monitor schema.org, because that changes. It's a regularly meeting group, and the schema changes and things there must change. So again, AI is your friend. Set it up to monitor changes and let you know, but you definitely need to be doing that. that's the end of mine. I'm sorry that probably took too long. But I felt like I could be a little generous with the time. Thank you for waiting, Kate. I'm really excited. I just wanted to, as a CTA, let you guys all know that I have a course which was just released this week called Content with Context. So that is going to be led by me. There are 7 modules that kick off in August. The only thing is that at the moment it is scheduled for 2 p.m. on Thursday afternoon, Sydney time, which is obviously going to be a bit late for you if you're in the US. But I do have interest from the US, and if you want to find out more, you can find out more there. And potentially I could be running a program later in the year, which is at a more US friendly time. So, you know, a little less Alison friendly, a little bit more US friendly. But it will be, it's pretty cool. I'm pretty excited. Go and have a look at it. You can find it on my LinkedIn and everything as well. So that's me. How long did that
Awesome.
go for?
That was, it doesn't matter. It was great content. It is great content. I think it's good. It's going to be important for everyone, really. Who has a
Yeah.
website? Who cares about websites?
Fundamental, I would say.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this is the foundation for everything.
Yes.
Alison, if someone wanted to reach out to you about these topics, what's the best way to do that?
Oh, look, probably LinkedIn. You know, I'm always there on LinkedIn. I'll drop a link into the chat of my my LinkedIn thing. And there's also obviously I've got my own website. So I'll drop some links in there, but don't worry, don't wait for that. Let's get on to Cade and the MCP. We want to give them like the double tap of amazing strategy.
Sounds good. Sounds good. Well,
Okay,
thank you, Alison.
no problems.
Great presentation. Kate, over to you to show us the magic of the MCP.
I will. Thank you. And we're officially in overtime, but that's okay just to kick into it, Vasiliy.
I'm sorry?
We're officially in overtime, but that's okay just
Oh,
to kick into it.
yeah.
Cool. All right. Did that share? No, it didn't.
Yeah, and please take the time you need.
Okay, cool. Here we go. Sharing now. This is the shortest slide deck ever. It's really just an intro and a close, and then the rest of the session is going to be live doing stuff. But as the title says, this is all about running Sitecore by prompt. We're going to work through it together, see what we can do, see what we can't do, see where the gaps are, and really get a glimpse of what the future, I think, of digital experience management is going to be. So just moved this. So just so you know who I am. So I've been around Sitecore now a few years, nowhere near as long as Alison. So it's been great to learn a little bit from her, even in this session now. But yeah, I'm a 4-time Sitecore strategy MVP. I've been around a couple of different Sitecore agencies here in Australia. And I've been trying to keep up with all these advancements and changements to the Sitecore AI platform, as we've covered a bit today. And in particular, I'm really interested in this Sitecore Marketer MCP server. As I said, I think this is really representing something of the future of what our jobs are going to look like. So it's really worth, A, staying across what we can do on it, and B, thinking about what this means for our roles, for our teams, for the way that we structure our operations, how we govern, experience management, and all that's kind of good stuff. But let's now jump into it. I'll get rid of the slide deck. So what I've got is Sitecore AI here open on the left, and I've got Claude set up on the right. Now in Claude, I'm using Claude. You can use different LLM agents. In Claude, it's pretty simple to get set up and running with the Marketer MCP server. Just go into connectors and add a connector. I've already got the Sitecore one added here. It's got a tick, which means we're connected. So we should be good to go. So rather than just kind of play around and do random stuff, I'm actually going to try and work through a bit of a realistic workflow. So we're digital marketers here. We're going to initiate a series of activities within Sitecore AI, a campaign, and we're going to work through building out a page, translating it, personalizing it, building out a new component on the homepage, clicking through to that new page, and basically just going to see where we get to. So with all campaigns, all good campaign planning, you should start with a brief. What are you trying to do here? What are your objectives? Who are your audiences? And that sort of thing. So we can just give a prompt to create a brief, and let's see what happens. Okay, it's on it. It's doing it. Now, interestingly, it's already going straight to the brand kit. And the brand kit in Sitecore AI is your brand context, who you are as an organization. How do you talk about yourself? How do you go to market? Now, I've already got a brand kit created. I work for XCentium, and so we've got an XCentium brand kit. And it's assuming that we want to use that to create a creative brief. That's good. We can tell it to go ahead and do that. But this is a bit kind of bits and pieces, dribs and drabs. I would rather give a more holistic kind of brief prompt up front so that I can give it all the context and all the information it needs in one go. So let's not just create a random brief. Let's create a brief for a campaign. Summer is coming. We're deep in the middle of winter here in Sydney and looking forward to summer coming in a couple of months. I'm going to tell it to use a brand kit. I'm going to tell it what my objective is to deliver marketing leads based on a workshop series. I want it to include some emails. I want it to include some ads, and we're going to target website visitors. Okay, so I'm giving it a pretty decent prompt. Now, while it's doing its thing and thinking that through, just pointing out in Claude, I am using Sonnet on the lowest effort mode. I've found that you can get pretty good results this way. You don't need to use the highest model here, which obviously uses your allowance much quicker. So the lowest model works. Okay, it's generated a brief, rightio, and we can review it here. So it's got our objective, MQLs, it's got an audience, which it's drawing from the brand kit. So it knows XCentium works with enterprise customers, decision makers in the digital marketing space. So it's identified that. It's built out some messaging for us, again, which it thinks it's consistent with the brand kit. It's given us a timeline as per the time frame that we'd set. It's thrown in a budget, random budget. Every time I do this, it gives a different number. It's just really guessing here. So we need to, qualify that budget a little bit and some more information. So we can make changes as you do as part of a conversation with an LLM, but let's now save it. And you do need to be explicit about the saving of a brief. Now, it's doing its thing. It takes a little while to save, interestingly enough. Let's jump over into Sitecore AI and see if our brief is there. Okay, it's not there yet. See, it actually takes longer to save than it did to actually create the brief in the first place. Okay, it's telling me it's here. And it is. Okay, summer is coming. It's saved as a draft. All the fields here, this is the standard brief template, have been populated, which is cool. Again, you can make manual changes, and then you can go into the normal brief workflow, which goes through review and approving. Interestingly, as far as the MCP server tools go, this is as far as you can take a brief. Within Sitecore AI, you can publish a brief and then convert it to a campaign and go from there. But we've reached the limit of brief to campaign management as per the tools today. I'm expecting them to build this out a bit further. Okay, so we've got our brief. Now, what do we need to do? We need to start doing things in Page Builder itself. So let's come back to Claude and let's tell it to create a landing page for the campaign. We're going to tell it where to create the page under landing pages, and we're telling it which site we want to use. Let's go ahead and do that. Meanwhile, we'll jump over here into Page Builder. So we've got our site here and our landing pages folder, and we're expecting to see the page being built there. Now, what's going on? It's got the Create Page tool. It's finding the landing pages folder. Cool, it's got that. Notice how it's giving you the ID numbers as it goes, and you can then pick those up and use them in future prompts, which is helpful. Okay, it's using our existing landing page template, which is great. So it's figured out that landing pages have a template to follow. It's got everything it needs. Oh, there's an issue. Okay, it's working through the issues. The summaries coming page is created and it's live. Let's just refresh this page. Okay, and it's actually prompting for the next step. So it's created as a blank page, but it's asking if we want to add components to the page, which we will. Firstly, let's check that our blank page is here. Summary is coming. Okay, that's a blank page. So let's build some content for it. Now, given we've already created the brief in this conversation, Claude has that as context. So we can just tell it to create content for the page from the brief fields. I'm giving the same thing there twice, but let's just get that running. Now, ideally, if you had a full set of tools within the MCP server, you could you could convert the brief to a campaign and then reference the campaign itself specifically to build out each component. But we're kind of working around a bit of a gap at the moment. Okay, so I'll build a landing page with 3 components. So it's picked what components are available for this template, for this page type. So it knows that you've got a hero banner, rich text, and banner component. Okay, it's populating the content in those components now, which is cool. Let's see if it's appearing over here. Yeah, that's not good. Maybe because it's doing stuff on the page.
Part of the fun of demo gods, Cade, is waiting for it to actually do something and hope that it actually does it. It's the anticipation.
Yes, or doing something and showing you the errors in real time. That's okay. It's all
No, it's
part
all
of
part of it. Yeah.
part of the experience at the moment. And doing this offline in my own time, I've found similar kinds of quirks. Okay, so it thinks it's done. Great. Let's see if I can get it to load. Meanwhile, over here, if we can't get it to go in Sitecore AI itself, we can ask it here to give us a preview for the page. So let's see if it can link us into the page. Here it is. See if that works. No. Okay.
Did you not sacrifice to the demo gods?
No, I was sure that I was in their good books, but let's take a step back. The other thing we can do is create a screenshot of the page. We're testing out the limits of the MCP server when the Sitecore AI itself doesn't work. Just jump into the right site here. Okay, it's loaded the home page. Nope.
No.
No problem. I can pick it up with another page, but let's just see what the screenshot generates.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, let me come back to the home page because we're going to do some things here as well. If it doesn't work, we can imagine that it's created a landing page for us. And we're going to build a component on the home page that links through to the page.
It's actually pretty cool. I haven't seen the one with Sitecore AI yet. I saw the the one with XView. This is very interesting.
Hmm.
This is really cool.
Even more when it works.
Yeah, it happens.
It is also raining in Sydney, and the Wi-Fi just gets dodgy when it's raining.
What is a 500 server error typically relating to?
Oh, so many things.
Yeah.
Very generic, but I would say something mismatch on your server side. Very likely. And it can be literally anything.
From literally weather, all kinds of things.
Well,
Yeah, this is as generic as error messages can get. It's basically you have an error. That's all that means.
yeah.
Basically too long to become editable. Try. What if you refresh the whole page?
Yeah, it
Like
may even be a log out, log in problem. And the screenshotting is taking a long time. So I'm wondering if it's the response.
Blame it on Sitecore.
For sure. I'm going to stop that because I don't think.
Fingers crossed. Switch the site.
But it is other sites. It is other pages that are working, just not my new page.
Mm.
No.
try recreating it. Maybe there's something that there's like a glitch during one of the
I can.
commands.
Stop that. Summary is coming to. Okay, so we'll just go through that process again. Wow, that was quick and confident.
Honestly, sometimes it just gets like so confused. I feel like the LLMs have got ADHD sometimes, and they just get stuck in executive function looping.
Well, and it's always so confident as well.
Oh, I know that's the problem. Like it could deserve to come down a level in confidence, but then people are just used to that. Anyhow, there's your second page. Can you do
Okay,
it? Yeah, add
great.
components.
Yeah.
Yeah. I turned the camera off because I was having a meeting toast, but this is fascinating.
Okay, so it knows that it's didn't do it right the first time, and now it's going to try again, adding components. And I won't reload the page until after it tells me that it's done this time, in case I tripped it up last time. If only we could run kind of processes in parallel. I guess you could if you had different chats running. Okay, same three components. Great. Okay, let's have a look. Oh, no.
Nah.
No, damn.
Okay.
Okay.
Let's just pick
Yeah.
another landing page that does work. Great. Okay, so let's say this was our landing page. We got the preview working. We didn't see the screenshot. It's going to take a while. Let's move on to another one. So let's create, it's a global campaign. So let's create a multilingual campaign approach. So it's already got a few different languages here. Let's create a German version of we need to name it here, marketing landing page. And if we tell it to do just create a language version, it's going to create another blank page, but just as a German version without any translation. So we're going to give the prompt everything it needs to actually translate the content on the page into German, and then give us a preview URL when it's done. So we're asking it to do a few things at once, which it should be able to handle. If it can't, actually, I might try playing with the effort on this model, see if it just needs to try harder. Okay, so yeah.
Oh, is it pulling all the instructions from the brand kit from the system?
Yeah, so everything will continue to be contextualized with the brand kit, as well as obviously what it knows about the pages that have been created, what versions exist. If I tried to create a French version and one already exists, it'll prompt me and tell me it can't. So it's read all the data sources, the English data sources. There's a component without text fields to translate. Okay, German added. It's re-adding all the presentation layer and hopefully with all the fields translated. Let's see.
Cade, what's it using for translation? Like, does it have an inbuilt translation engine, or is this presuming that you're hooked into something which is running the translations for you?
Yeah, just using so translation as a feature is built into the platform now. So it's just all AI translation. Yeah.
Okay. Does it have a dictionary? Would it have those kinds of things in the translation?
Don't think it has a dictionary yet. That's one of the limitations. So it's pure AI. I don't think it has, that kind of memory capability that another translation service has.
Okay.
Okay, there's quite a few steps involved. Yeah, you know what? I think I will upgrade the effort after it's finished this set of processes. And we're waiting for a preview URL to know when it's done.
Yeah, translation can get tricky.
Particularly translation to German, because just the length of the words.
I didn't put any thought into that.
Yeah. That's okay. I'm sure you're not going to, it doesn't really matter if you kind of break the UX a little bit because the word's too long. So.
Yeah, wonder how many pencils got broken in the process of translating to German with the design team.
All content.
Okay, German preview.
Still.
Yeah, the umlauts. Oh.
Okay.
Yeah, that's German.
That is German.
Jawohl.
Okay. Their marketing landing page.
Great. Now let's go back to the home page and let's add a new component that links through to our landing page. So there's various things you can do if you're not quite sure what components are available. You can ask it, hey, what are all the components that I can add to the main placeholder on the home page? It'll tell you that. Pretty simple. I'm just going to prepare my next prompt. I was thinking about that. So we're going to tell it to add a hero component to the main placeholder, which is this one. And we're going to tell it to put it in as the first item. So if you just say add a component to the page, it'll put it at the very bottom by default. So we'll tell it the position. We'll tell it to check for a data source and create one. And we're going to tell it that the whole thing should link through to our page, to our marketing landing page. Okay, there's our list of components. Great. Okay, let's go ahead and get this component created. Okay, so it's getting the components that are available. So I'm still getting this error back over here with this page. Yeah, okay. Okay, so it's identified that that the first component is the carousel, again, the ID number. So it needs to add a component before it. So it's working all that out. Okay, the hero is added. Let's see. Yep, great. So here's our hero component with placeholder text, with a link, call to action, which should be through to our landing page. No, didn't get that part right. Actually, maybe it was still going.
Still thinking, yeah.
Yeah, it is still going. Okay, it's going to work around here. Look at that. Okay, well, we've found one bug. You don't want to refresh the page whilst the MCP kind of operations are running, because it seems to break.
Mm.
But again, it's pretty confident of everything that it's done here. Okay, then we'll move on to see how this goes, and then we'll move on to creating some personalization and an A/B test. I'm guessing it's still going to give me a 500 error. No.
Ah, nice. There we go. There's some message about a version at the bottom, so maybe it's just we weren't looking at the right version in Page Builder.
Yeah. That's actually not quite what I was expecting. I'm expecting to see a component at the top with, well, it tells me here, it should say summary is coming with a link to the new landing page. So it knows what it was trying to do. But again, I think I refreshing the page interrupted the process. Okay, let's jump back here to our marketing landing page. Let's work with this quickly to create a personalization variant of the page. So I've got my prompt pre-prepared, and let's just check there's nothing here. There's no existing personalization variants. Okay, so let's create a personalized variant of the page name of the marketing landing page. And we're going to use a couple of conditions in one, because we can, where country condition is US, and they're a returning visitor, and the day of the week is a Tuesday. So 3 conditions in one. And let's change the title field in, what's this component called? Hero banner. Title field component, title field in hero banner component. Use the copy strategy. Copy is in the data source. So we're copying the existing data source, creating it, and then modifying it for the personalized variant. Pretty advanced prompt here. Multiple things it needs to work out how to do. Okay, it's found our component ID. Okay, it's seeing what condition templates it's got to use, and it'll map the available condition templates again against the prompt that I've given it. Okay, it's identified the 3 different conditions. Personalization created. The copy strategy before it then updates the fields. Now I've told it to change the title field. I haven't told it what to change to. Oh, okay. It's come up with its own text. So it's going to update it to say, welcome back, exclusive for the US visitors, which matches with the set of conditions. So let's have a look at that now, see if it's there. It is. US Tuesday returning visitors. Welcome back, US visitors. So that actually works quite well. Great. And then the last thing we will do is create an A/B test. So let's create an A/B test on this page. Well, in fact, it shouldn't let us because you can't run an A/B test on the same page that has a personalization variant. So let's come back to another page. Let's try the About page. Okay. And it's got a component, a heading CTA component. So let's create an A/B test on the...
Cade,
Yes.
doesn't that icon to the right of the About page indicate that it's already got personalization in
Oh,
place?
it does too. Good, thank you.
Yeah.
Pick another one. Service page.
Pick a different page.
Attach.
Okay, and you can, if you're not sure what pages have what personalizations or tests on, the command is page flows. Okay, let's actually get a list of everything that we've got running. Any optimizations. Check all pages.
Are these like custom skills that you set up, or are these the terms, like these are the commands that you can use that are defined in the MCP or something?
These are all, so let me jump. There's a guide that I've written using that QR code. I'll pop the link in the chat as well.
Yeah.
So they're standard tools that that Claude in this case is triggering that are available via the server, and the exact language you use is flexible because the AI is smart enough to know what you intend to do. So you might see in some of its output, it's referring to specific tool names. So create component data source, that's a specific tool name.
And so those are in the MCP, are they?
Yep.
So this then presumably would work if you had, say, Enterprise Gemini connected or something else.
Yes. Yep. As long as you can create a connector to an MCP server, then it'll work.
Fine.
Now it's given us a list of flows. So the personalization we just created, it knows that's there on the landing page. The About page, you're correct, it's got a personalization on it. It gives us the details there and a couple of other pages. Cool. So there's no flows on these pages. So let's pick the services page. So create an A/B test on the services page using the, what was this component called? The heading CTA component. CTA component.
Take out the page called home.
Yep. And we're going to configure variant B to hide the component. And every A/B test needs a goal. So the goal will be page views of the, it doesn't matter which one. So let's just tell it the home page. Okay. So the bare minimum for an A/B test is you need to tell it which component you're going to target. You need to tell it what you want the variant to do, whether it's hiding, showing, or changing, and it needs a goal. So let's give it that. And if you don't give it all these instructions in a single prompt, it should walk you through. So if you just say create an A/B test, it'll say which page. Then you tell it the page, and then it'll say which component, and then you give it that and so forth. All right, so it's identified there's actually 2 matching components on the page. It's going to use its own judgment and use the first one, which is good. That's the one we wanted. A/B test created, and now it's applying the configuration to the variant here. Done. Again, let's not take its word for it. Let's check. And if we jump onto this component here, need to open this side panel. Let's open this screen up a bit. Doesn't look like it's done, does it? I'm expecting to see an A/B test panel appear over here.
Try refreshing the whole browser.
Let me check what it's told us here. It's done on the services page. Component heading CTA1, variant B hidden services. Oh, there it is. Okay, great.
Hey.
A/B test, variant B, the component is hidden. Okay, all sorted. Well, that's a bit of a whirlwind tour. As we saw, so a few little glitches there, particularly if you're trying to refresh the page whilst the command is running. The link I will share in the chat to the full guide that has all the different tools referenced and some indicative commands you can use. Again, there's no precise language you need to use within your LLM prompt. You can use my examples or work out your own, and you can stack as many different commands into a single prompt as you can, just to make your job easier. And this is a rapidly evolving space. So just because things don't quite work or there's some gaps today, doesn't mean that they'll still be here in 3 months' time. In fact, I'm sure they won't be. That's it.
That's great. I wonder if anyone's already created an automation with Jira based on that, or Asana, or any task management tool.
Vasiliy, I have done that way ago. I don't even do the comments in Jira for probably past months.
I have.
It's well ago. So actually, because you asked these questions, I would like to step in with my comments. I have some controversial feeling, and what I want to express with my saying is that I personally prefer to work with skills rather than tools. So when saying tools, I mean MCP. And the reason to that is because MCP and tools, they are deterministic in first place. Yes, they run a little bit faster, but think of that like driving in manual and in automatic. Automatic helps you to drive a little bit easier and automatic. That's why it's called in first place. But as let's say, very experienced driver on a manual gear, I can easier control my car, and I can control my consumption, fuel consumption, because I can do it like 20% less. So when it comes to skills versus tools, skills are more universal. That's the first thing. Second, any skills can still be converted into tool, and I can convert any skill into MCP. Like let's coming back to situation of getting 500, like things like that, I would never experience. I mean, I will experience, but I would not stuck, because with skills, you can tell it to fix itself. So obviously you can say, find the reason why it's stuck, go through logs, go to do whatever and fix yourself, and it will do. With the tools, obviously, if there is no specific tool to get the log through the logs or analyze that, it will simply don't do that. So that's my kind of opinion. And again, like the reason I'm saying that, Vasiliy said, has anyone invented Jira? Yes, because I'm using skills, I immediately say that it's not just do this task, but also once upon completion, you have to write the artifacts and the comments into the Jira. So easy. And for Jira, again, because it's skill, not tool, I can easily train it to do that. Same as I train it to work through all the means of Sitecore. So actually, the best thing about skills is that I can use my codex to X high mode, for example, and I can make it self-train itself. I don't even need to train myself. I make it to go study, learn, and absorb and accumulate its finding into newer skills. So essentially, I just leave it alone, give it some pretty time, and in a day from that, it will be absolutely capable of dealing with Sitecore things. So. And when it comes to Jira, I only give it Jira API key. And yeah, it also actually needs the email to authorize these two parameters. And it's all you need to get this done automated. Same for CI/CD, same for all the bits. Actually, with pages, it can reverse engineer pages by specific logs and artifacts. I don't even know how it does it, but it knows. So. That sounds like a future, but this is how I work for the past couple months, actually. But that's not to devaluate topic of MCPs, because again, anytime you want to kind of make a polished product from your skill, you create an MCP with tools, and you ship it to your specific clients. And again, you all your tools, you test it, you validate, you edge, like verify against edge criteria, and that's gonna work. So kind of that.
Yeah. There's a time and place for those, for sure, because you can't. And SCP is not the best tool for everything, but then also skills have certain limitations. Now it's interesting. Are there any, Cade, any other impressive capabilities of the MCP that you haven't had time to demo, but you think would be very interesting for people to just at least be aware of, those who are watching?
We didn't see the screenshot, so that's pretty cool. So it seems to actually render the page pretty well, pretty accurately. As we saw, there's a few gaps in a typical workflow that you can't quite cover without jumping back into Sitecore AI. So obviously they need to address that, because it's a bit of a clunky workflow at the moment. You can do some things by LLM and some things in the interface. But as I said, I expect them to close that gap. And really then it's about working out how to chain different commands together into a single prompt. So I can see the scenario where you've just got a single prompt that says, create me the campaign and all these artifacts, and draw from the brand kit, but also this document that has some content ideas, and basically generate everything in one prompt, as in a multi kind of set. A multi-set of experiences and content. So I can see us getting to that point, and where the limit is, I'm not quite sure that once all the tools are there and available via the MCP server, then it's probably the limit of the AI model we're using, I guess, to be able to string it all together and execute it.
Very cool. Yeah, if someone wanted to learn that, what's the best way to do that? So if I'm a technical or non-technical learner,
I just think grab that guide, grab that web page that I shared. That's got the full set of tools available at the moment, and just stay across any updates the MCP server via the Sitecore published changelog, and then just play and work out for yourself what are the kind of prompt structures that you get the best bang for your buck. The most consistent results, and it's really available for anybody. You don't obviously need to be technical at all once you've got the MCP server connected, and that's all via the LLM UI. It's about tuning the prompts to give you the exact output you want.
Excellent. Sounds good. For those listening, so all the links that were shared in the chat will also be shared with the recording, will be shared on YouTube in the description, will be shared on the meetup page. The link to the recording will be also shared on the meetup page. Cade, thank you so much. This is very interesting. It's actually pretty cool. It's,
It is.
you know, at the end of the day, it's pretty cool. That's awesome. So exciting to see where this is going to go, and what content or digital management is going to look like in a year or two from now. All right,
Just
excellent.
thinking
Well,
of myself back like 2024, maybe beginning of 2024, all these things like MCP, skills, tools that sound like very, very unrealistic. It's like you understand it's piece of future, but where is that is like very, very fantastic. Now this is part of reality. The way we work is shift, the approach to work shift that much into automatic things. And interestingly, that I can admit personally, the way I work is actually exhaust me way more than I used to do, because typically I spend maybe 30% on the very, very intellectual piece of work, thinking and planning and doing that type of things. And 70% of work was just execution. For example, writing a code or just deployment, whatever. Now this execution part shifted to maybe 5%, and the rest of time is this heavy intellectual work that literally drains the brain. So you know what? To summarize our meeting, we all became these 10x developers with these tools.
very true. Very
That's
true.
really it.
Well, in the interest of time, we'll wrap this up. Anything else, Alison, Cade, from your sides?
No.
Okay, and Cade, if anyone has any questions, what's the best way to reach out to you?
LinkedIn works. Always there
Excellent.
too.
Awesome. Sounds good. Well, you guys have a whole day ahead of you. Hopefully summer comes soon. And we'll post this recording. We'll share the links. Thanks a lot for your time. Thanks for the support. And we'll see you in the next one.
Thanks. Bye.
Thanks for presenting.
Cheers, guys. Bye.